the most important commodity is zero carbon electricity. So reiterate for us exactly then, why the threat of all these closures? If it's so important and doing so great, why the threat?
It's a great question. The reality is, while our policies are all designed to encourage the production and the maintenance of zero carbon electricity, the fact of the matter is that nuclear power has thus far been excluded from the programs that actually provide compensation for zero carbon electricity. So it's the exclusion from that playing field that has injured the economics of the plants. We could say we value it, but until we put those values into action and policy, then there is no value.
Any guarantee in this law that if the legislation becomes law that the plants won't close?
You know, it is not written into the legislation that the plants will remain open, but we understand that that is a part of the dynamic, part of the legislative process, something that policymakers will want. And we think that with a successful piece of legislation, that commitment will come.
What sort of commitment would you be thinking there?
I think the commitment is going to extend for as long as this policy is in place. As I said, there's a sunset provision after about 5 years that will kick in. So I think the commitment would be commensurate in time with that sunset provision.
You know, I know you said that this would make all low carbon sources would be able to compete under this framework, but I mean, I just have seen unions and Exelon up here. There's nobody from any of those other entities. Why might that be, or what sort of guarantee do we see that they could be able to compete against Exelon?
I think the fact that they're not here is simply a reflection on where we are in terms of the dialogue over this issue. I think as we have a discussion, I think more of those entities will appear and will be supportive of this approach.
Are there actual guarantees in this, though, in any way, shape, or form, that other low carbon sources would have an opportunity or a leg up in the bidding? Or?
This process ensures the lowest price for consumers regardless of technology. So accordingly, there is no guarantee that anybody with a higher price will be selected. The IPA is going to be directed to pick the cheapest resources that serve this benefit for consumers.
Well, the 800-pound gorilla is Exelon. You got the technology. What makes anybody believe that you won't be the lowest bidder?
Well, we hope to be the lowest bidder, but the simple fact of the matter is that we expect to have heavy competition in this program.
From who?
Wind assets primarily, some hydro assets primarily, maybe other nuclear generators.
That'd be existing, right? I mean,
it could
there
be
would be
new
no
or
way for new entities. That's not kind of part of the whole dialogue here.
Well, keep in mind that there is already another program that supports wind and solar. The RPS program in Illinois supports those technologies as well as hydro. Nothing we are doing here today interrupts that process and that opportunity. It may very well be that economically that's a better program to incentivize new wind and new solar, and that this will be a lesser opportunity for new resources. But I can't answer that. There's over time, I'm sure you've heard that these technologies are coming to grid parity, meaning that they are going to be able to compete with nuclear and other technologies. And if that's true, if that comes to pass, then they'll have an opportunity to participate.
Joe, how much did your 3 plants that are losing money lose?
Well, I'll give you an example. We lost $100 million at just the Clinton plant last year. And so the losses tend to coincide with outages, so we have to refuel the plants occasionally, and when we refuel, that's where we invest in a lot of state-of-the-art refinements to the plants, and from a cash flow perspective, that's when we're spending a lot of money. So it's not a straight line, but year over year, what we've observed with regard to these 3 plants is that we're suffering losses and we're not able to recover our cash costs.
How much,
let alone earn a profit.
How much did you lose in the other 2?
I'd have to give that to you. I'm not even sure we've made that public, to be honest with you, but I don't have it.
How about the ones that made money? How much did you make there?
Again, I'd have to refer you to our SEC filing, and we don't break it out plant by plant in the filings, so I don't have an answer for you on that.
So can some be?
Yeah, so
sure.
Why not subsidize the ones that are losing with the ones that are making money?
Well, I think for anybody who's run a business, they understand that each part of the business needs to be profitable. So if you ran a chain of stores, you wouldn't necessarily keep stores that aren't making money in business simply because you have some stores that are making money. Each asset has to stand on its own merits, and so if an asset is not profitable, it will be shut down. And this is nothing new, frankly. We've seen this with Kewaunee, that was talked about. We've seen it with Vermont Yankee. The companies that own those nuclear facilities certainly make money on other assets, but it doesn't go into one big pot that that would support otherwise uneconomic units.
I mean, the difference is.
I think it's just a kind of a common sense the way people do business.
There's a difference between a utility that people need to have energy versus somebody can choose to go to 17 different CVS's in town, and one of them might not be used, and you can lock that off, and that's a profit motive only. This is also dealing with consumers' lives and ability to, stay warm in the winter.
Yeah, well, and it's a very real concern to us. I would point out that the owners of those other nuclear assets were in fact utilities, just like Exelon. And just like Exelon, they participate in a competitive merchant market where units have to rise or fall based on their own economic merits. But very clearly, we have brought this issue to the attention of policymakers because we think these plants have this enormous reliability benefit associated with them. They are incredibly important to the economy in terms of keeping prices low, and that's why the representatives here have stepped forward and sponsored this piece of legislation.
Can you
How many
confirm?
plants are there? How many plants does Exelon have nuclear?
In the state of Illinois, we have 6 sites.
Where are they?
They are Dresden, Braidwood, Byron, Clinton, Quad Cities, and LaSalle.
And the last 3 are the losing ones, right?
I don't know what order I gave them to you, but the plants that have been talked about that are undergoing economic challenges are 3 of those 6, and they are Quad Cities, Byron, and Clinton.
I think we're coming up on the end of our time. If we have any other questions, one last question for our speakers, please feel free.
Why not take more questions?
I saw
One more.
that the profits last year were actually up 31% from 2012. If I'm the average person who has power from you guys, and I hear you guys saying that we need assistance, but you're still getting profit, what would you say to those people who are paying, for your services, but still willing to have assistance in providing the services?
I think it comes back to the same question that was asked before. No one from Exelon has ever denied that the company is profitable. It is. What we're talking about is the profitability of units that are persistently losing money and our inability to keep those units open unless we recognize the important attributes that they provide. If we don't recognize the value of clean energy in the market, then clean energy resources will increasingly retire. And they'll retire on a unit-by-unit basis because that's the way we look at the business, that's the way everyone looks at their business.
It would seem that this would help you make more profits. If you're making profits now and you have everybody subsidizing through their own bills $2 a month on average, then you're just going to make more profits, and why should the average citizen think that's a good idea?
Well, what it'll help us do is not make profits but avoid losses that otherwise would be treated by retiring plants. As has been said this morning, the right way to look at this is the consequences of losing the plants. And what the reports that the state has done independently demonstrate is that the consequences are 10 times greater than the $2 that we're talking about on a monthly bill. And so we're trying to solve a problem here. And the problem and the teeth of the problem is far bigger than the solution.
Thank you for your time, everyone.
Yeah.